So if you were not here, there was another lecture. I know two in a row, but it happens. Um, so the major political parties in the United States: Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, and Green Party. Now, those first two are really the two main ones. As we all know, we are pretty much on a two-party system. We do have other parties as options, but they have not had a real influence on an election in a really long time. Green Party even less so in more recent years. Libertarian Party, I think they did carry like 4 or 5% of the vote in New Mexico, but for the most part, it's all Republican and Democratic Party. So the Republican Party, founded in 1856, their current political ideology is more about conservatism and centralism. So conservative matters. We did look into where they stand on policy. Conservative usually pretty much is saying they want to keep things the same. They don't want change. They want to keep the system how it is now for the most part. One of the important things here is that when we talk about current political ideology, it does change, right? The Republican Party today is not the same as they were in 1856, or they're not the same as they were when Lincoln got elected. You know, the idea of ending slavery is not really a conservative idea, right? That's not keeping things the same. That's radically changing a system. So the Republican Party from then is not the same as the one that we have now. Same goes with Democratic Party. So that was founded in 1828, and their current political ideology is liberalism and centralism. But as I was just talking about, back in the mid 1800s, they were the party of slavery, not a very liberal idea, right? So we can see parties evolve and change their ideologies over time as a way to attract new voters or as a way to attract new demographics. So in 100 years, the Democratic Party is still around. They might look significantly different from how they do today. The Libertarian Party, founded in 1971, their current platform is libertarianism, limited or almost no government, limited government regulation. So that's why, again, I say in places like New Mexico and Nevada, we see a lot of libertarianism, where they just don't want government regulation of their industries, things like that. And then we do have the Green Party, founded in 2001, becoming less and less successful over the years. Their platform is more liberalism and socialist ideas. All right, so public opinion, what is it? It is the sum of many individual opinions, beliefs, or attitudes about a public person or issue. So, what do people think about the president? How do they feel about him? How do they feel about the president's policies? How do they feel about other government policies? That is public opinion. And how do we measure public opinion? Opinion polls are widely used as a way to gather information. They're always updating opinion polls, how they take them. Think of like the Gallup polls, and polls are not always correct. As we saw in 2016, almost all the polls were giving favor to Hillary Clinton winning, and that clearly did not happen. So they needed to adjust ways that polling was taking place. These polls should be scientific, like random sampling, unbiased questions. Again, if you take a poll of, I don't know, let's say the city of Fresno, you only poll people in Fresno and then try to say this is how Californians think. That's not a very scientific poll because that's not random sampling. You're taking a specific place that has a specific ideology and trying to pass it off as the entire state of California, whereas people in Fresno think a lot different than people in San Francisco. So if you want to get better polling, you need to get proportional polling to the areas. Polls are not always accurate, but vital to performing election strategies for all political parties. So kind of going back to what I was just talking about, how they're not always accurate, but it can influence where a political person is going to campaign. A Republican is most likely not going to campaign too much in California because they don't think they're going to get the vote. But if polling suddenly sways and it's showing like now 45% of Californians are Republicans, they are going to be more likely to come here and campaign to try to get that extra 6% to put them over the edge. And what shapes political opinions? So politicians and their actions can shape public opinion. So if a politician puts a law into effect and it's unsuccessful, that will change public opinion towards that politician or the way they performed it. The media definitely pushes different public opinions, how things are talked about in the media, what sources people are looking at. Activists, opinion polls. If people see an opinion poll and they're not agreeing with it, they might switch and rethink, like, why does 90% of the country think this way? Maybe they're onto something that I'm not. There's also a lot of biases, confirmation bias. People, if you ask them a yes, no question, are going to be more likely to answer yes, even if they feel no. Or no, that's willingness to please bias. Confirmation bias, something else, sorry. And money significantly changes public opinion. If you see ads everywhere, even if you don't think advertisements have an effect on you, they do. $14 billion spent on the 2020 elections. Bulk of that money is spent on TV and online ads. If you never saw an ad for Biden or you've never saw an ad for Trump, you would be less likely to vote for that person, right? So money significantly affects public opinion. Demographics, particular sector or section of a population. What are some examples of demographics? Age, race, gender identity, sexuality, marital status, income, education, employment. And we use these polls to try to target different populations, maybe try to bring them to one side or the other. It influences how much money is spent on different things. Special interest groups. This is going to be a group or an organization seeking to change something, or they're trying to push some sort of agenda. So what are examples of special interest groups? So you could see indigenous people and ethnic minorities could create groups. They are going to send out leaflets trying to tell people how they should vote. They are trying to push laws into legislation that will help their minority, right? Refugees and migrants, we see a lot of groups that are advocating for better rights for these people, right? If there's no one to advocate for them, nothing is going to change. Women and children, people with AIDS, HIV, people with disabilities, these are all just different groups that are trying to change public opinion. They're trying to change the way things are happening in the world. And political lobbying, what is this? So it is an attempt by individuals or private interest groups to influence decisions and votes of government. So a special interest group cannot give money directly to a politician. You can't just have an oil company give money and say, lower our regulations on oil. But the special interest group can give money to a lobbyist who then can give money to a politician. It's like a middleman. The lobbyist is just trying to work their way, trying to tell the politician what they should do, what they can do to continue getting funding, right? And at the end, we are going to be watching a video about lobbying. So just if you aren't here, make sure you do watch that, write your summary, and exit ticket.